too fast.
I'm going.
I'm taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh
Son of a bitch.
no! You get your two?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at two separate replays. First one, you can see we're on Northern Lights in the Chapyev, and then the second replay we'll have coming up will be in the Tirpitz. So first, taking a look at the replay on Northern Lights. Of course, in the Chapyev. Now, we talked about it before, but the Chapyev just keeps surprising me more and more. I really am enjoying her. I mean, she's, well, a little more armor than the Shores and the Bidyani, but still very weak armor, but still really enjoying it. I mean, I do have to get better with the use of the radar ability. I seem to use it once and then kind of forget that I have it, or when I do use it, I think I use it too early. But anyway, I make one good use of it in this battle anyway, so that's good. Now, what the plan is here, and what I generally try to do on Northern Lights, is typically the battle will take place over at A. This is, you know, again, we talked about before, where the battleships like to go. It offers the most open water for them, so I'm going to make my way over into that direction. Now, even though I'm pointing my ship all the way over to the west, I don't really have the intention of actually, you know, getting into A and capping A. This, what I'm doing here is simply to get myself into a better position to start engaging some enemies quickly. Because we also know, or should know by this time, that most of the enemies, or some of the enemies, at least a few, are going to be going to A as well, over there in the west. So, if I can get myself in between the B and C point, hopefully I'm going to be able to fire in on some of the enemies who are making their way over there to A. In addition to this, you know, maybe spot some destroyers at D and be able to fire into them. And as well, by taking this course, I'm not going straight forward, right? So I'm going to keep myself hidden for a little while longer, because in the Russian cruisers, frankly in any cruiser, you do not want to be the one who's first spotted. There's a time and a place for a cruiser to lead the charge into the cap, and that time and place is not at the beginning of the battle. It can be done though. We've seen it. I did it before. I believe in the Rune we put up an episode. This was a while back. On Tears of the Desert, we did it in the Rune. Yeah, we were with Trucker, that's right. But I had a lot of support in that instance. If we take a look at the minimap, as the team is dispersing here, you'll see that, you know, if I did charge into B, I'm not going to have a whole lot of support. Now, taking a look at the minimap as well, keeping our eyes on it, we do see that there are a number of allied ships who are heading all the way over to the east, as well there are a number of allied ships heading all the way over to the west. To the west, sorry. So this is interesting. We're going to need to figure this one out here. Again, I'm not going to take any sort of side at this point in time, because, you know, we don't really know too much about where the enemies are dispersed as of yet, in terms of, you know, whether they're on the east and the west. Based on the information we have on the minimap, we basically know that most of the enemies, and we can see more of them popping up in the minimap, that most of the enemies are actually in the center. Yeah, it looks like they will be taking the B and the C points. So this is good. I'm in a good position now to actually start, you know, firing it on these enemies. Now, I do pop the old radar, which is fantastic, because it means that these destroyers in front of me can't hide, which is fantastic. Fantastic, because that could be our catchphrase. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, my brain got caught up with something else. We have a Tirpitz in the distance that we put some shots into, hoping to get a few fires there. We do have the Hatsuwaru who pops up here as well, and you can see a lot of my allies are also engaging with these enemy destroyers, which is fantastic. We do have 3 enemy destroyers on the enemy team, so, you know, want to keep these guys in mind, especially considering I think at least 2 of them are in B, and I am within their torpedo range, at least within that Hatsuwaru's torpedo range, right? Hatsuwaru gets 10-kilometer torpedoes. So there's that, and obviously that would be assuming as well that the Hatsuwaru doesn't have that, you know, the captain ability that increases the speed but decreases the distance on the torpedoes. Speaking about captain abilities as well, we put up, or rather I put up the Zhao video the other day, and after the video I realized Zhao Captain didn't have Demolition Expert. What the hell was I doing? I really dropped the ball on that one. But anyway, luckily we still have the captain ability sales. You know, if you go to respec, it only costs 1 gold. So I went ahead and respec the captain and have Demolition Expert on the Zhao. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I really dropped the ball on that one. Anyway, Shots are coming in. We can see shots coming in from the Tirpitz and from the Amagi. And I do believe that the Tirpitz shot high explosive at me. What is going on? Why? The Chapyev, in case you were wondering, the Chapyev can basically be citadeled from any angle, from a battleship anyway. I mean, if a cruiser were to shoot at you, you could probably get away with some, a pretty tight angle, but you could probably get away with it. But in terms of, a battleship firing in on you, no. Any angle that battleship is going to be firing in on you. Generally, what I like to do, and why I enjoyed the upgrade from the Budyani to the Shores so much, was that I had the extra turret on the rear of my ship, which meant that I could drive in a straight line away from the aggressor, presenting as small a target as possible while still being able to put in some sort of effective shots. So we do have some more shots coming in from the Amagi. The Amagi isn't going to forget about me, but luckily the Amagi's aim is a little off. We can see the Amagi, though, is in fact firing armor piercing. We can see the Tirpitz returns shots as well with armor piercing, and I have taken a bit of damage, but it's not too bad as of yet. We're still doing pretty great. We do have the Amagi set on fire, so this is excellent. If we can just switch back over to the Tirpitz and keep the Tirpitz on fire as well, which is something that I do tend to do. I don't know if it's good or if it's bad, but I do tend to switch in between targets when I'm firing at range like this, just trying to keep multiple battleships on fire as much as I possibly can. I don't know if it seems effective. I don't know if it's the most effective thing to do anyway. And generally speaking, when I am doing it, I'm in a rapid fire ship as well. Obviously I wouldn't be doing this in a battleship, for example. Get myself hung up on a bit of an island here. You can see I'm way back at the end of the map, right, with the aircraft carrier. Now, even though I'm way back here, I'm still able to engage the enemies effectively. And if we look at the minimap, we can see that my team has taken A, C, and D. So we have 3 out of 4 of the points. So, I don't have to get right up into these enemies' faces and try and push them off the B point. There's no need, right? If we just take our time and do some, damage to these enemies, start working them over, we'll probably win this one. Even if the enemies do end up taking the A point, it's not that big of a deal because we do still have the C and the D point, so at least we will keep cap parity, which is important, right? When we have these 4 separate cap zones, you do want cap parity and then, push from there. So we've got that. Now, if we also look at the minimap, because again, the minimap tells us a whole lot of information, we can see what direction the enemy ships are going. And based on what the minimap is telling us at this point in time, all of the ships we see in front of us are all making their way over to the A point. So this is interesting information to have, and it's pretty important that you know what to do with this information. So even though we see all of the enemies going over to A, we don't want, obviously we want to make a play on B, right? That's what we want to do, but we don't want to just charge into B. No, we do want to take our time. Now we have this Thotgor who has popped up in front of us. Now the Thotgor is trying to play a little sneaky. You'll see that the Thotgor is trying to present as small a target as possible. Now for all of you cruiser captains out there who think that it is a good idea to stop and reverse in your cruiser, take a look at what happens to this Thotgor. Yes. once the Thotgor realized that I wasn't having any of that, he then begins to, sail forward. Realizes that going in reverse isn't a good idea, but in the time that he was reversing, I managed to set his ship on fire from stem to stern. He is not able to put out any of these fires, and in the meantime, I still have a bunch of shots going in. Keep that in mind. If you're in a cruiser, it is a bad idea to stop and to reverse while firing in at a target. Sure, American battleships and high-tier Japanese battleships can do it, but you are in a cruiser, you cannot do it. So I switch over to armor piercing. We can see that the Thotgor has also switched over to armor piercing. So this is a little concerning because the Thotgor does have really good guns on her and can do a shit ton of damage to me. I have an island in front of me as well, so I do have to turn into the Thotgor and present more of a broadside. Luckily, the Thotgor switched over to high explosive. That is what saves me. I still have my armor piercing loaded. We've got some final shots going out, and Oh my god, so close. Really wanted to kill the Thotgor there in that shot, but luckily we do have more shots going out, and I mean it was my fire on the Thotgor as well, so the Thotgor was going to die. So the Thotgor returned shots with high explosive once again, put out his fire. I managed to kill the Thotgor, get the arsonist in the meantime, which is fantastic, and now we can make our play into B. Again, if we look at the minimap, we can see that the information we gleaned from the minimap earlier, in that, you know, most of the enemy ships are going over to A, has proven to be true. All of the enemy ships basically that are remaining are now, you know, making a play at A. For whatever reason, the enemies are trying, well, I know what they're doing, right? They want cap parity, that's obvious. But they have sent all of their ships to A and have left basically nothing to defend. There was the Thotgor, who did a pretty crappy defense, and now we have this Fuso, but luckily for me as well, you know, making use of the island cover that I have, I am going to be able to shoot over these islands, hopefully keep the Fuso on fire, although I'm having a bit of a hard time even getting one fire to the Fuso, and as well the islands here are going to shelter me from any incoming shots by the Fuso, which is good. But I did sail too close to the islands, now I can't shoot over. Oh well, I'm still sheltered. We can see the enemies have, you know, basically their entire team managed to push, and yes, they did take A, not a problem. We still have cap parity, and in fact, I have now capped the B cap, so fantastic. Excellent, now I can just circle around, get myself out of this situation, and back into some cover, because I don't want to die. We do still have the enemy Fuso off in the distance. Now, this is the closest enemy ship that I have to me, and this is going to be the biggest threat that I'm going to be facing at this point in time. Reason for it is I do have to present a broadside, you can see broadside presented, to the Fuso while I'm in a turn to try and get myself out of the B point. I don't want to continue forward. You can see there's a lot of enemies forward, and I don't want to continue forward. I do have, you know, islands on port and starboard of me, which is sheltering me from any of those incoming shots. Basically, it's, you know, like the Fuso. Any ship who's in where the Fuso is going to be the ships that can fire in on me. Take a few shots from the Fuso. You can see that I do have some allies coming in as well. I've got this friendly Japanese cruiser here. I'm not sure if that's a Miyoko or an Thotgor, but one of them. I've got that friendly cruiser there in front of me taking some shots. You can see the Fuso is still firing at me, but at the very least, this guy is now supporting me, which is fantastic. Trying my damnedest to continue to angle against the Fuso, dodge the incoming shots while not grounding myself. Bit of a challenge, but you can see the enemy Fuso doesn't have the best of aim, so this is fantastic. Now, I am struggling to actually set any fires to this bloody Fuso. I don't think I've actually managed to set any fires to this Fuso at all, which is a little ridiculous, but, you know, lucky guy, I suppose. Meantime, all of my allies, you know, have, well, a lot of my allies anyway, have pushed beyond the sea point and are now on the same side that the enemy has spawned on, the southern side, and they're actually helping me out with the Fuso here as well. So, I mean, I'm not really doing that much damage to this Fuso, but my allies are. Unfortunately for my friendly Thotgor, I believe it was Thotgor, the Fuso did manage to take the Thotgor out, which really sucks, because this means the Fuso, at least I assume, will now be firing at me. And yes, in fact, he is. We can see the armor-piercing shots on their way to me now, so I do need to turn and avoid this incoming fire. You do see that my allies managed to finish off the Fuso, which is fantastic. I do take one pretty big hit from the Fuso there, but managed to stay alive. Excellent. Now we can see some enemy destroyers. So I believe that this is the Hatsuhara. We still have the Hatsuhara at play. We can see a Tirpitz in the background as well, who has just fired at me, so need to keep this player in mind. Don't want to get taken out by the Tirpitz. And we're at about 925 points. So, I don't want to die. I'm, you know, a little over 100,000 damage at this point in time. I have nothing left to prove. It's all over. Why not take the victory and just let these enemies be at a position over here on the west side. Now, obviously, I will continue to fire in at the enemy destroyer, but I'm not going to take chances with those enemy battleships because I'm at such low health. I mean, even, you know, from these distances, those battleships just need one lucky shot and I will die. So, trying to avoid that from taking place. But not a bad battle overall. I mean, I did enjoy the teamwork that took place here, even though it looked a little sketchy, right? The way that my team split out, and most went to the west and the east, leaving very few in the middle. But you can see how effective it is, you know, when you're playing in a cruiser, not to just limit yourself to one side of the map, right? I strafed around in between B and A. That kind of paid off. You know, I played the map based on how most people play it most of the time. Anyway, victory is ours. You can see battle is over. So I did get the Arsonist medal, which isn't too bad. 101,000 damage, which is also pretty great. I did manage the 1 kill. Not too shabby at all. Second overall in the team, which is pretty great. We can see the Fubuki managed to get first overall in the team, so fantastic. It was probably that Fubuki, actually, that went around and ensured a lot of those caps for us. So good job by that player. We can see how some of the damage has broken down here. Most of the damage was done to the Thotgor, and then, the Thotgor, 54,000 damage done to that player. That's more hit points than the Thotgor actually has. Keep in mind, the Thotgor has a repair party, so is able to heal over time. When all is said and done, I do end up walking away with 186,000 credits, and of course about 6,300 experience, which isn't too bad at all. Alright, so moving into the next clip, you can see we're back on Northern Lights, and we are in the Tirpitz. Yes, Northern Lights. I mean, it's a decent map. What is it? It's just a nighttime version of... I can't remember it. One of the maps that started out really early, or that was basically one of the original maps. I just can't put my finger on it now. I want to say Fault Line, but it's not Fault Line. But anyway, back on Northern Lights. This time we are spawning in the southern half of the map and in the Tirpitz. So we're going to play a different role, obviously. We're going to play battleship role here. Keep in mind, though, that I don't describe myself as a battleship captain. I'm really, like I say, I just have the battleships because they're big, awesome ships. I'm not that great in battleships, but, I do try my best. Anyway, in the Tirpitz, we are going to head over to the west, get ourselves over to A. Classic play. Usually this is what I'm going to be doing regardless of what ship, or whether or not I'm in a cruiser or battleship. If I'm in a destroyer, it's different, right? Obviously I'm trying to get into the caps right away, maybe C or B or C to get into those right away and cap it out. Not in the battleship and the cruiser. Now it's a little different in the battleship, right? I mean, I fully expect to be spotted on my way over here to A. Even though, same situation as the last replay we just saw, even though I'm making my way to A, doesn't mean that my overall goal is to actually cap A. Again, I'm making my way over to A because I know that there will be a few enemy ships who will go over to A as well, and I'm hoping to be able to get in some shots on them before they actually make it to A. If the plan, or if need be, I can always turn back and support B as well. So that's going to be generally my plan. Now, my plan usually does involve, leaving C and D out of the equation, and hoping that if my team does decide to go over there, that they, put up a pretty good cap. Now, that's the plan anyway, and that's what I'm hoping for. If we look at the minimap, though, we can see a lot of my allied ships are heading over to the east side of the map, right? Not many of them are actually heading over to the west. So it's at this point in time that you do want to, check your, I'm going to say ego, because it seems a lot of people aren't willing to alter their plans because of their ego. It's like, nope, I said that this is the way we're going, this is the way we're going type thing. You need to check your ego when you make these plans, right? Look at the minimap, read the situation. There's not a lot of enemy allies heading over to the west. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to continue all the way over to the A point, so my plan has changed. I'm going to continue to strafe the enemies as much as I possibly can that are on their way over to A, but no longer am I going to actually be getting over there to A. I am going to have to turn around, and it looks like we're actually going to be focused on B and C. Hopefully someone on the team will go D so that I don't have to go over there to D. I generally try to avoid the decap altogether unless I'm in unless I'm in a destroyer. So we do see an enemy, a Thotgor, I believe, off in the distance. So I'm lining up some shots, hoping that those are going to go into him. Maybe do some citadels, bit of damage. Hopefully, yeah, one citadel, not too bad at all. A Thotgor's almost dead, so some of my allies can finish off that player. So again, most, if not all, of my enemies have abandoned the western side of the map. So all right, we're just going to turn ourselves in. And I do like being, when I'm in a battleship, I do like being the last player in the line, I guess. It does mean that the enemies will be firing at me, as they're pushing up and trying to close the distance between us. But at the same time, I can also offer a bit of defense, which is usually how I like to play. I do like to play defensively. Anyway, another enemy cruiser, another enemy Thotgor here off in the distance. So we're going to try and do the same thing we did to the last Thotgor. Get a nice citadel, bring them down to, well, maybe kill them all together, but bring them down to a little low health there, and then maybe one of my allies would finish them off. That would be fantastic. Shots go out into the Thotgor. We do see an enemy destroyer pop pop up as well. We can see the Thotgor is making, evasive maneuvers towards my shots turned into the incoming salvo there, and it managed to avoid them all, so yeah, good show. Now, as well, keep in mind the Tirpitz does have some pretty atrocious dispersion on her, but, still, when she does hits like a truck. We can see the Thotgor turning back in again. Is that an Thotgor? I don't know. I'm going to keep saying a Thotgor. It could be a Miyoko, but we're going to say a Thotgor. So the Thotgor keeps turning in, presents another broadside. I put some shots into the Thotgor, about 13,000 damage in that salvo, which isn't too bad. No Citadel, though. I would have liked to get that Citadel. But anyway, my team in the meantime has managed to capture C. You can see that we have some players in D who are currently capping it as well. And the majority of my team, in fact, is over here at B. We are putting up a bit of a resistance over here at B, hoping, at least I'm hoping, that we're going to be able to prevent the enemy from taking this point, because then we will have C and D. The enemies are going to have A. We're not going to be able to stop that, but if we can keep them from having B, we'll still have the cap lead, which would be pretty fantastic. So that's what I'm going to do now. I am going to stick around B, and this kind of brings it back to the original plan here. Like I said, originally going off over to the west, seeing what I can do, strafe the enemies that are on their way over to A. Fantastic. If plans change, like they did in our map, and my team did decide to go to the eastern side of the map, B usually then becomes the critical, pivotal point, right? It becomes the point that you're going to start fighting over. So it usually is a good idea to get yourself into a nice defensive posture around B. Being in a battleship, I'm not really looking to go in and cap that point. I'd want to support my team, but I don't want to actually go in there and cap the point. What I'm hoping for is one of my destroyers to go in there and cap the point. That's really what a destroyer should be doing. But you can see we only have 2 destroyers. Now, one of my destroyers is playing the defensive role, so that's great, fantastic. The other one of my destroyers, we can see him over there on the eastern side of the map, right? The player just capped D, pushing around with a battleship. Okay, alright, I suppose. Maybe, though, it would have been nice to have a destroyer over here at the cap. We do have a number of cruisers with us who, potentially can get in here and cap this point, but the cruisers, again, are going to have a really hard time actually getting into the point and capping it without dying, especially considering the enemies, who are just outside that B point kind of hunting us down, just like this cruiser here. So we are going to put a few shots into this enemy cruiser here, hopefully, again, a few citadels, take the player out. Unfortunately, I don't quite lead the target enough. The Thotgor is at full speed. The Thotgor, 35 knots is what I want to say of the full speed of the Thotgor, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't own one, so not 100% sure on that one. But still, a very fast cruiser, so if she's at full speed, you need to give it a bit of a lead. We have the Nagato off in the distance, so I'm going to try and put a few shots into the Nagato, but mountain comes in front of me. Not going to waste those shots. We'll just wait till we sail past the mountain, clear the mountain in altogether, and then fire off our broadside at the Nagato. Decide against it, though, because we do have this Tirpitz coming in. Now, the Nagato's on really low health, so I assumed that my teammates were going to take care of the Nagato. I'm going to deal with this Tirpitz. I do have a friendly Indianapolis here with me as well. Indianapolis seems like a pretty decent premium cruiser, but she's an American cruiser, right? And like all American cruisers except for the Atlanta, at least the decent American cruisers, I'm not going to count the Omaha or the Phoenix, they have no torpedoes. So in these close-end fights like this, really limited. So I'm going to target the Tirpitz here with my secondaries. I'm going to fire off whatever guns I possibly have loaded at the player here, try and do as much damage as possible, and then obviously launch my torpedoes as well. Now the plan here is to turn and get out of this situation. I didn't want to have a broadside presented to this Tirpitz. What I don't realize as of yet is that by continuing this turn, I'm now presenting a broadside to the other enemy battleship on the minimap. We can see that player we can see the player on the minimap right now, right? So I'm still focused on this Tirpitz. We almost have the Tirpitz done, and I don't realize my mistake as of yet. It won't be until I actually kill the Tirpitz here that I realize, oh, damn, Thotgor. So there we go. Tirpitz is dead. Fantastic. You can see I got real lucky with the North Carolina shots. If those shots would have been a little better aimed, something might have gone horribly wrong. So we do have, or rather we did see some torpedoes. There might be an enemy destroyer around. No, the enemy destroyer is at sea, so I don't know where those torpedoes came from. Whatever. We're going to continue to fire in on the enemy North Carolina here, and we're going to sail towards C. At least that's the plan right now. I mean, we can see that C is being contested contested by an enemy destroyer, but we do have a number of cruisers over there at sea who should be able to deal with it. We haven't capped B yet, so maybe I will turn in and take B. My repair has just finally finished, so I'm able to finally put out the fire, which is fantastic. We have another enemy cruiser coming around here as well, going fairly slow, so maybe get a nice citadel on that player, maybe take the player down. You can see one of my allies just finished off the enemy destroyer who was at C, so this is fantastic. We don't need to worry about C being contested anymore, and on top of that, the enemies don't have any destroyers. So the enemies are down to 3 ships. We can see the North Carolina and the Thotgor here in front of us, and then we also have another enemy battleship off in the distance, another North Carolina. What that other North Carolina was doing way back there, no idea, but whatever. Fantastic for that player who decided to take himself out of the battle much before it ended. So we are going to continue to fire in on these 2 enemy ships. I obviously don't want to run into my friendly turrets here. I don't think the player was paying attention until the last minute. Then you can actually see the turrets does start to turn and move away. Fire off a few last shots there at the enemy Thotgor, hoping to finish him off. One of my allies takes the kill, so that's fantastic. And then we're just going to focus down on this enemy North Carolina until we win. We're at 931 points at this point in time, so it's not going to take too much longer. In this situation, is it still good for the enemy battleships to be reversing? I don't know. It just seems like such a crazy tactic to me that it just bothers me. I don't know, and I guess it bothers me more too that the damn thing works. In this situation for the North Carolina, yeah, probably not. Nice citadel there, but you know, if it was maybe a Yamato, Iowa, Montana, angled a little better, driving, you know, sailing in reverse, yeah, it probably would have worked, and it just boggles my mind. But whatever. Battle is over. Victory is ours. Fantastic. Though not too bad, 2 games today that we had. We did get to see, you know, and talk a little bit about the strategy that I employ here on Northern Lights and its derivatives. Anyway, I managed to get 3rd overall in the team, which isn't too bad at all. We can see how the damage breaks down here a little. So yeah, the enemy turrets I ended up doing the most damage too. I mean, not the best game that I've ever had in the turrets by far, but still excellent game. And then the teamwork is what really made it go. Now we have 257,000 credits is what I do end up walking away with, and about 5,200 experience, but more importantly about 5,300 experience for the old commander. Again, working ever closer towards that 5th ability for my German battleship. I think I am going to go manual fire on the secondary armament. I probably want my German battleships to be spec'd out for their secondary guns, maybe. Not sure yet, but anyway, thank you so much for sticking around, watching the video through. You know, as always, remember to leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. I love reading those and responding back to them. Remember to hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Remember to hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.